to in continuation to what we spoke about last week, to understand the shift that has happened, at Lag BaOmer, how the nature of these upcoming, the days of the Omers since Lag BaOmer straight till Shavuos are of a different nature of the first 32 days. And how the whole, these are two parts of a formula, two parts of a process that is necessary when you come to anything that has to do with Torah. Something to take note of, that from the day after Lag BaOmer and onwards, you will, every single day has either a Yesod or Malchus to it, right? The day following Lag BaOmer is Yesod Shebahod, right? And then, then it's Malchus Shebahod, and then we start counting the weeks of Yesod and Malchus per se. And these two latter midas are different than the first five that precede them, in the sense that the first five that precede them, each midah is a particular midah, right? Whereas these last two midas are klalim, not pratim. And is alluded to in the pasuk that speaks out these midas. L'cha Hashem ha'gedula v'ha'gvura, gedula is chesed, gvura v'ha'tiferes v'ha'netzach v'ha'hod, then ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, everything. And then l'cha Hashem ha'mamlacha, gets its own, malchus gets its own pasuk, right? That, and it has to do with what Chazal tell us, ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, l'cha Hashem ha'mamlacha. That Chazal talk about that pattern as far in the human being as kol ma'asecha yiyu l'shem shamayim. Everything that you do, there should be a unifying thread in all the different things that you do. It should all be l'shem shamayim in connection to that Mishnah and Avos. The Rambam brings another, in his Pirush HaMishnayos on the Mishnah and Avos, brings another famous Chazal, and he says it's talking about the same thing. What the pasuk says, B'chol drachecha da'ehu. B'chol drachecha da'ehu. Be connected to Hashem in everything that you do. Afilu lidvar avera. That even sometimes when you fail, turn those, that should be a yerida l'tzarech aliyah. That should be somehow, something, the Rambam says it's not literally a dvar aver. It says, so you did, a little bit of bittul zman, but you needed it, to get out of your low mood, so you could reinvigorate yourself. That's what it means. I feel dvar aver. But it's a whole, there's an idea of a unifying power of pulling all your midas together, and then there's a unifying focus. And that's the midas of Yesod and Malchus, of pulling all the midas together, and it's all at the single target of Malchus Shamayim. And so this already tells you that from after Lag BaOmer, we're not working in details anymore. We're now working in klalim, right? In encompassing principles, whether it's the power to pull all the midas together, whether it's the unified goal, the singular goal, everything is focused at. So now, to first show and demonstrate that is the difference between, academically, what we have from the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva that did not survive, as opposed to the five, the Chamisha, the Rabbeinu Shebadorom, right, that these are, from them, Rabbi Akiva rebuilt Torah. What did these five Talmidim do? They wrote books. They compiled, right? And the Stam Mishnah's Rabbi Meir, and the Stam Tosefta's Rabbi Nechemia, and all these five Rabbi Shebadorom gave us the Torah Sheba'al Peh as we know it. They created the books of Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? They compiled. They did the work of composition, pulling things together, and this is, in a way. Not in a way. It's the polar opposite of what the other Talmidim that died out until Lag BaOmer were, they were lo nagu kavod zelazeh. In a sense, each one was concerned with his individual achievement, right? And everyone was interested, him and his chavrusa, in their way of learning. Then come these five Talmidim, and they make compilations. They pull these things together in books, and they formulated the Torah Sheba'al Peh as it endures until this day. And by the way, this is the whole inyan of the base medrash of Rabbi Akiva, that the Ari HaKadosh says about Rabbi Akiva, he is the shorish of Torah Sheba'al Peh. That means that he is the one that formulated it in a manner that was lasting. Until Rabbi Akiva came, it was floating. It was Perushim built around Chumash. Right? And then Rabbi Akiva came, and his base medrash, they were working, right, to pull it all together. And that's the pshat. The Gemara says in Menachos that Moshe Rabbeinu was shown Rabbi Akiva. And he said, Yesh cha'adam kazeh vata nosein Torah al yada. You got a guy like Rabbi Akiva, and you're giving Torah through me? Moshe Rabbeinu thought it would have been more apropos to give the Torah through Rabbi Akiva. Right? And the reason is because, it's Gemara Menachos, right? Because Rabbi Akiva was the one that gave us a connection to the Torah. And that's why the HaOmer are connected Rabbi Akiva. Right? The function of the HaOmer that lead into Matan Torah is that we're working on ourselves, that when Torah comes, we should be refined enough to be able to incorporate it. If we're unrefined, it'll be lost on us. We won't have a connection to it. Right? Rabbi Akiva gives, so Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh says, Shtok kachal b'machshava, I have decreed that Torah is given through you, but Rabbi Akiva remains the one that gives us the connection. So now, in the connection to Torah, there is a process that's inescapable. The Gemara says, Afilu ki yidabru oivim bashar, afilu avu b'no, v'arav v'talmido, k'sha'oskim b'Torah nasim oivim ze lo ze. Inescapable process, natural law. There's even a father and son, or Rebbe and Talmud, when they learn together, they become enemies. They argue, right? They don't get, and we have to understand why. They argue, right? But enam zazim misham achinasim oavim zazim. But further down the line, if they follow through till the end, they actually become very close. And this is like a inevitable process. There's first the machloikas, right? And then there's the convergence. Machlokas the split, and then the convergence, that in relationships that they become ovim zelzeh, and in learning also, in the intellectual process of learning, when there is initially the machlokas of raising all the possibilities and all different opinions, and then you have the compilation, right, of pulling all the everything that's correct, pulling it together in a book, and in that act of compilation, in that also lays the psak halacha of how to proceed, right? How the art of pulling all the different aspects together and come to a approach forward is part of the compilation. Right? So in the days of the HaOmer, right, we were preparing for Matan Torah, the first 32 days, right, there was machlokas, lo nagu kavod zelzeh, right? But that's mukhrach, because that's called kavod haTorah. It is the greatness of the Torah, right? That the Torah is not monolithic. It's not monochromatic, right? If Torah is the blueprint for reality, right, and reality is a diversified reality, full of different shapes and colors and possibilities, that all starts with the Torah. And it's the glory of the Torah that it breaks up to so many possibilities. Interesting enough, Rabbi Akiva, it says, the Mishnah in Saita, Mishemes Rabbi Akiva, bottle, kavod haTorah. Right, when Akiva died, kavod haTorah is bottle. Says Rashi, what's kavod haTorah? The pilpul, Rabbi Akiva with his pilpul, raising the possibilities, making these kind of pilpul, is called kavod haTorah. Right, the first 32 days of the HaOmer, we spoke about last week, 32 is gematria of kavod. They were working on kavod haTorah. Problem is that everyone was too much into his own kavod haTorah, right? His opinion and pushing losing sight of how the other guy is also necessary. So why not Kosh will take them to task for this during the days of the HaOmer? No, because there's tremendous pushback, right? Because the base medrash of Rabbi Akiva was working to do the work of generations. So there was pushback from the Sitra Achra and or Kitrugim. You know what it was like? Like Matan Torah itself. Matan Torah itself, there was pushback, right? What was the pushback? The Satan came and was able to entice us into doing the Chet HaEgel, which caused the Sefiras haluchas, right? When a very big tikkun is being made, there's pushback, and it's a time when a big tikkun is being made, so you're audited, whether you're really worthy, right? So because they're working on kavod haTorah, so they were taken to task. Lo nagu kavod zelzeh. What about that guy's kavod haTorah? He's also part of the process. Each one was too engaged in his piece, his contribution. But all that's called kavod haTorah. The Torah could break up into so many possibilities. That's the glory of Torah. Right? But after Lag BaOmer, we come to the second half of the problem. Nasim oavim zelzeh. So not only that these Rabboseinu shebedorim work together, work there, but also the tzura of their learning was not of one of generating possibilities only. They were working on compiling and pulling things together. And that's also something that's vital for Kabbalah Torah, not just because that's part of the process, but the idea that Torah has this aspect of togetherness, nasim oavim zelazeh, right? That is necessary to be Makabel Torah, because ask the following question. The Avos, they kept the whole Torah before it was given, right? So now we know, Gadol mitzvah v'oseh mimisha eno mitzvah v'oseh. Why did God withhold the goodness of the tzivui of the Torah from the Avos? The Avos would have loved to have the Torah, and they kept it voluntarily. So give the Torah to the Avos, because Gadol mitzvah v'oseh. So my Rebbe, Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Yaakov Weinberg, Zecher Karsh Brachas, answered and said, because you can't give the Torah to an individual. You can't make a bris olam, a eternal covenant, with an individual that's here today and gone tomorrow. Torah's a bris olam. Only a nation is a big enough vessel to hold a infinite Torah. Because a nation is not just a conglomerate of people that happen to be alive. A nation, once you reach nationhood, it includes all the generations that were and all the generations that will be. You know, it's an entity that is timeless. So you can make a bris olam, and you can give an infinite Torah to a nation. You can't give it to individuals. So coalescing is a very necessary step to make us into the kli that could hold the Torah. And that's the process that we start feeling after Lag BaOmer. Now we're in Klolim. Now we start, it's the second half of the process of Nasim Oavim Zelazeh. Now we start, pulling together from amongst the many things that, the Memches Dvarim Shator Niknes Behem, right? The Maharal says this word. One of the Memches Dvarim Shator Niknes Behem is Noseh Ba'olim Chavero. His problem is my problem is his problem, right? We carry our problems together. Why? Right? Because, so the Maharal says, because Torah belongs to a nation. If you're missing the meat of Noseh Bo B'Chavero, there's no nation. Nationhood is that we're in it together. So your problem is my problem also, and that we can't be the kli that's big enough to hold Torah until we become an am that spans all the generations. Beside what Chazal say in the halacha, that a chatas tzibur gib b'chatas tzibur shemesu ba'aleha she'ein tzibur mesin. A public doesn't die, because the tzibur includes all the generations that will be also. So a chatas tzibur, right? There's no such thing as, you can't call a chatas shemesu ba'aleha, even that whole generation passed on, because tzibur includes all the generations. Right? And that's the Indian, that from the day after Lag BaOmer and onwards, right, we're in Klolim. We're in the whole, the second phase of Nasim Oavim Zelzeh. We begin to feel our nationhood emerging. So the next major landmark coming up is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Vayichan Sham Yisrael Keneged Ahar. It's Lashon Yochid. Ki'ish echad b'leiv echad. That's when the process that begins immediately following Lag BaOmer comes to another landmark, that we're like one person with one heart, right? That's when we're coming together, right? And we start feeling our nationhood, and it's all because Keneged Ahar, we are all facing Har Sinai, we are all united in purpose. And with this, you have to understand, so it's so very peculiar about the Jewish people, right? We die for each other, but we can't get along, right? Right? 3,000 years worth of history to prove that, right? It's true, right? Now ask yourself another thing, right? They just came out of Mitzrayim. We're trying to make a nation, right? We're trying to make a nation, fresh nation. So now, for all the years they were in Mitzrayim, how many it was, 210 or longer, right? No one cared whether you're from Reuven, Shimon, or Levi. No one cared. You're all equally slaves. You're all in the bruch together. We come out of Mitzrayim, right? And tribalism is actively revived in the Seder Masos, and then in the Chaluk of Eretz Yisrael, encouraging tribalism when you're trying to make a nation, because that's the special nature of the Jewish people, which reflects the special nature of the Torah. First machloikas, because that's glory. That one nation, which is the nation of Torah, reflects the Torah. That's the Torah of many possibilities. That's glorious. That's covet Torah. That's the covet of Am Yisrael. That there's 12 shvatim, and the Ari says, Keneged Torah, there are 12 nuschos of tefillah, and it says that Ashkenaz is the remnants of Nusach Binyamin, and Sfar are the remnants of Nusach Yehuda. That's what it says in Kisvei Ari. That's godless. That's greatness. That Akoshko could be that that the Am HaTorah reflects its Torah. That it's a Torah of multiple possibilities, and that means the unity between us is a much higher unity, because regular national unity is because you have people who are all like-minded, sharing the same land mass, right? And that's hasn't been true about us for 2,000 years. Not like-minded, not all living in the same place. Mefuzar Mefora. Right? And still one nation. Because it's as Rav Sadia Gaon says, Ein Amenu Uma Ela B'Toraso. What is our national fiber is our Torah. It's the Torah that binds us together. And it's the glory of the Torah, that it's a Torah of multiple possibilities. It's called Kavod HaTorah, and that's the first 32 days of the Omer. And then there's V'nasim over that this same Torah gives you achdus from a makor ruchani. It's not gashmi. There's no social way to explain the Jewish unity. Like I said, we'll die for each other like no other nation is willing to. We're so dedicated to it like no other nation, and yet we can't get along. Right? And so it's from I've written about, because our achdus is not from like-mindedness and being on the same land mass at the same time. Our achdus comes mikoach the Torah itself. Right? And that's the breakthrough. We start feeling after Lag BaOmer, right? We start feeling the on the inside track, right? The koach haklali of Torah is awakened, and the Talmid of Rabbi Akiva of that part of that segment are the ones that make chiburim, make compositions. That is the power that's being nis'ora now. So just one more word about Lag BaOmer. Why Lag BaOmer is the turning point, right? Because Lag BaOmer seemingly is still in pratim. It's hod shebahod, right? But it's the finality of when you reach the very, very nth degree of the pratim, you automatically break through to the klal, right? When you really think about what is my role as an individual, who contemplates this, interestingly enough, Reb Shimon Shkop. Reb Shimon Shkop in his monumental Hakdama to a Sharei Yosher, which there's over there fingerprints that he was Isaac in Kabbalah, because these issues that we're talking about are alluded to over there. He says, he talks about, is there a conflict between my self-actualization and serving the klal? Right? Similarly, it's a conflict. Me first and developing myself, or working for the klal. And he says, you know what? On the superficial level, there's a conflict. When you reach the depth of it, you have to ask yourself, what is me? How do you define me? Right? If every entity lives in a vacuum, so every other entity is a threat to it. Right? But what if reality is an integrated machine? Right? Reality is like one massive integrated machine, right? And every entity is another cog in this massive machine, right? When you come to that realization, there's no stira between the avoda of self-actualization and serving the klal, because I am the klal, and the klal is me. Each one of us is a cog of a massive, massive system. Right? So the conflict disappears, and that's the realization that you had on Lag BaOmer, where the power of the reaching the finality of developing, a person reaches the highest point of self-actualization. He realizes there's more to it than just himself. The I is part of a much larger system, and that's the secret of what it says. That Rabbi Akiva, V'aftarecha kamocha, zel klal gadol b'Torah. Ben Azai says, Zeh Sefer Tolos Adam, Klal Gadol Mizeh. That there's a Sefer Tolos Adam, right? That all the generations together, we're all in one book together. We're all part of one system. Beside what the Mishnah says, it says, Bara Olamo B'Sefer V'Sefer V'Sipor, the world itself is like a big book. Zeh Sefer Tolos Adam, Klal Gadol Mizeh. You realize everyone's just part of one system. And that's the breakthrough on Lag BaOmer. When you reach the finality of actualizing yourself, Ad Sof, you realize that there's something bigger than you. And that's the threshold of Lag BaOmer, where the idea of self-actualization meets the Avodas HaKlal. Yiskada v'yiskada shmei rabo nobody brought you say b'yamlit machusei v'chayim chod yom echad v'chayim v'chol b'Yisrael v'agalov izman karev v'imru amen yehei shmei rabo mevorach l'olam u'meyo mayo yisborach v'yishtabach v'yispar v'yisroman v'yisnasei v'yisador v'yisalev v'yisalo shmei d'kutsha b'richu Leila Mikol B'chasa B'shirasa, Tush B'chasa B'nechamasa, Damiram B'Ama V'imru Amen. Al Yisrael Rabbanon Val Talmideon, Val Kol Davnei Samideon, Val Kol Manoskim B'Raisa, Divasha Adem B'Chol Asar V'Asar. Yehelo Chom Shalom Rabba, Chinu V'Chizda V'Rachamin, V'chayin Arichin Zona Birkei, U'B'Kon Gar Mu'ishmaya V'Ara V'imru Amen. Yehei Shalom Rabba Mitzvamaya, V'chayim Aleinu Al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Rama, V'yaseh Shalom Aleinu Al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.